He loved food more than people. He ate at every party, invited or not. He stole from neighbors. He snatched food from children. One night, he took one forbidden bite at a village feast. That bite refused to stop. He ate, and ate, and ate, until his body grew, his breath failed, and death stared him in the face. Everyone laughed, until the food began to multiply. This is not just a story about hunger, it is about greed, shame, and a lesson that almost killed a man. Gaius was known in this village for one thing: food. If there was food anywhere, Gaius would find it. He loved food more than rest, more than work, more than good manners. Morning or night, rain or sun, his nose always led him to where people were eating. Some people loved food, but Gaius loved it too much. What started as love slowly turned into something else. Gluttony. Whenever there was a party in the village, Gaius was always there. It did not matter if his name was on the list or not. Once he heard drums, laughter, or smelled cooking soup, he would appear. He would greet loudly, sit quickly, and stretch his hand toward the plates. He ate as if he had not eaten for days. Before others finished one plate, Gaius had finished 3. At first, people laughed. Gaius has a strong stomach, they said. He enjoys life, others joked. But as time passed, the laughter stopped. Gaius did not only eat at parties, he ate anywhere. If his neighbor was cooking, he would walk in without knocking. If someone was eating quietly in their house, Gaius would talk loudly until food was offered. Sometimes he did not wait to be offered. He would sit, pick a spoon, and begin to eat as if it was his right. Soon, people became uncomfortable. When they saw Gaius walking down the path, carrying his wide smile and fast mouth, they quickly hid their food. Pots were covered, plates were pushed under beds. Children were warned to eat inside and not outside. Some people even ran indoors and locked their doors when it was time to eat. Gaius noticed the change, but he did not care. He only laughed and talked more. Gaius loved talking almost as much as he loved eating. He talked with his mouth full. He talked while chewing. He talked about other people's food, other people's houses, and other people's business. He never knew when to stop. Secrets were not safe with him. If you told Gaius something in the morning, the whole village heard it before sunset. Still, food was his true love. He begged little children for food whenever he got the chance. If a child was eating biscuits, Gaius would kneel and beg with a smiling face. Sometimes he promised stories, sometimes he promised nothing. When begging did not work, he used speed. He would snatch the food and run, laughing as children cried behind him. One afternoon, Mama Caro's baby cried loudly. To calm her, Mama Caro gave her biscuits and tied her on her back. Gaius was passing by. He saw the biscuits. Before Mama Caro could turn, Gaius grabbed the biscuits and ran away. The baby cried louder. Mama Caro shouted. People gathered. That day, something changed. The villagers did not laugh, they did not joke. They only looked at Gaius with anger and disappointment. Gaius, however, walked away chewing, smiling, and talking to himself. He did not know that someone had been watching him closely. An old man stood at a distance, quiet and still, his eyes following Gaius until he disappeared down the dusty road. By the next morning, the village had learned a new habit: how to eat in fear. People no longer ate outside their houses. Pots were no longer left uncovered. Even the smell of food was hidden as much as possible. The reason was simple. No one wanted to see Gaius standing nearby, smiling and licking his lips. Gaius had become a problem everyone knew, but no one knew how to solve. Whenever he walked through the village paths, his eyes moved from one house to another. He listened for the sound of plates, the scrape of spoons, or the soft chewing of someone enjoying a meal. When he heard any of these, he changed direction at once. Some neighbors tried to be polite. "Gaius, we are eating later," they would say. "Gaius, the food is not ready." But Gaius never believed them. He would sit down and begin to talk, talking and talking, until the food appeared. If it did not, he would complain loudly. If it did, he would eat more than anyone else. Soon, politeness disappeared. People began to avoid him openly. Women whispered warnings to each other. Children were told to run home if they saw him. Men shook their heads when his name was mentioned. One woman was eating quietly behind her house when she heard footsteps. She looked up and saw Gaius. Without a word, she picked her plate and ran inside. Gaius laughed loudly. "Food is sweeter when chased," he said. Another day, a man was eating yam by the roadside. When he saw Gaius coming, he threw the food into the bush just to avoid sharing it. Gaius stood still, shocked. He looked at the bush, then at the man, then laughed again. "So you would rather waste food than share with me?" he said. But inside something burned. Even though Gaius laughed, he knew the truth. People did not like him anymore. They did not enjoy his presence. They feared his hunger and his mouth. Still, instead of changing, Gaius became worse. He began to follow people. If he saw someone carrying food, he walked behind them. If someone tried to hide, he shouted their name. If children ran, he ran after them. Food had become his master. His stomach ruled him. At night, villagers ate in silence. Doors were shut early, fires were put out quickly. The village that once shared meals now shared fear. Gaius noticed the silence. He noticed how conversations stopped when he arrived. He noticed how smiles faded. He noticed how children clung to their mothers. But he told himself one thing. "They are just jealous," he said. "They do not understand enjoyment." One evening, Gaius walked through the village and found nothing. No food smell, no laughter, no plates. Only closed doors and quiet paths. For the first time, his stomach growled loudly. He stood alone in the middle of the village, confused and angry, and from a shadow nearby, unseen by Gaius, a pair of old eyes watched him closely without blinking. Hunger changed Gaius. When the village stopped eating in the open, Gaius did not stop searching. Instead, he began to look where he had never looked before. He followed the smallest sounds: a spoon tapping a plate, a wrapper opening, a child chewing quietly. That was when he turned his eyes to children. Children were easier, they were slow, they were soft-hearted, and they always had something small to eat. Whenever Gaius saw a child with food, his steps quickened. He smiled widely and spoke gently at first. "Little one, share with me," he would say. "Just one bite." Some children shared because they were afraid. Others shared because they were kind. When they refused, Gaius did not argue for long. He would stretch his hand, take the food, and run. Soon, children learned to fear his shadow. Mothers began to warn them. "If you see Gaius, hide your food. If you hear his voice, run home." But children forgot easily. One afternoon, Mama Caro's baby cried loudly outside her house. The sun was hot, and Mama Caro was tired. To calm the child, she took out a pack of biscuits. The crying stopped at once. She wrapped the baby on her back and stepped outside, hoping to enjoy a moment of peace. That was when Gaius appeared. He smelled the biscuits before he saw them. His eyes fixed on the small hand holding the pack. Without greeting, without shame, he stepped closer. "Mama Caro, your baby is enjoying," he said, smiling. Before Mama Caro could reply, Gaius reached out, grabbed the biscuits, and ran. The baby began to cry again, louder than before. Mama Caro shouted, "Gaius, come back here!" People rushed out of their houses, some chased him, but Gaius was fast. He disappeared behind the trees, chewing and laughing. That day, the village did not forgive him. Women spoke with anger. Men clenched their fists. Children cried. Even those who once defended Gaius stayed silent. "He has crossed the line," someone said. "He has no shame," another replied. From that moment, Gaius was no longer just annoying. He was dangerous. Yet Gaius did not feel shame. He felt full. He felt satisfied. As he walked through the village, he talked loudly, telling himself jokes, praising the taste of the biscuits, and blaming others for being selfish. "They hide food," he said, "so I take it." That evening, Gaius ate alone, not because he wanted peace, but because no one wanted him near. As night fell, the village grew quiet, fires dimmed, voices softened. Gaius lay on his mat, rubbing his stomach, smiling to himself. But he did not know he was not alone. Across the path, under a tall tree, an old man stood still. He had watched Gaius beg. He had watched him snatch. He had watched him run. The old man's face showed no anger, only deep thought. For a long time he stood there, and then slowly he turned and walked away as if a decision had finally been made. The old man's name was rarely spoken in the village, not because people feared him, but because he lived quietly and kept to himself. He spoke only when necessary. He listened more than he talked. Some villagers believed he was wise, others believed he was strange, but everyone respected him. For a long time, the old man had watched Gaius. He had seen how Gaius once shared meals like everyone else. He had seen how the love for food slowly took over his life. He watched as Gaius began to appear at every gathering, then at every cooking pot, then at every plate. The old man never corrected him. He never warned him. He only observed. From his small farm near the edge of the village, he watched Gaius walk past each day, mouth moving, stomach leading the way. He saw how doors closed when Gaius came near. He heard the whispers. He noticed how children ran. The day Gaius snatched the biscuits from Mama Caro's baby, the old man stood still for a long time. His hands rested on his walking stick. His eyes did not move. "That is enough," he whispered. That night the old man did not sleep early. He sat outside his hut staring at the stars. The village was quiet, but his mind was busy. He did not want to harm Gaius. He did not want to shame him in front of everyone. He wanted Gaius to understand, and understanding, he knew, came with lessons. By morning, the old man had a plan. He went to his farm and walked slowly through his crops. The harvest had been good. Yams were large, grains were plenty, fruits were ripe. He smiled slightly. Later that day, he sent word around the village. There would be a small celebration, not a big one, just a simple gathering to thank the land for healthy crops. Only a few villagers would be invited, food would be shared, stories would be told. Nothing more. People welcomed the news. The village had been tense for too long. A calm gathering sounded good. The old man carefully chose who to invite. He skipped some names. He included others. One name, however, was missing: Gaius. The old man did not say it aloud, but the choice was clear. As the sun set, the old man sat quietly again, his walking stick beside him. His face was calm, but his eyes were sharp. He knew Gaius well. He knew hunger would bring him. He knew curiosity would pull him closer. All that remained was preparation. In the quiet of his hut, the old man began to prepare something special. His hands moved slowly, carefully. His lips did not move. His eyes stayed focused. When he was done, he covered it and placed it aside. Outside, the village slept peacefully. And somewhere in the darkness, Gaius turned on his mat, his stomach already searching for its next meal. The day of the celebration arrived quietly. There were no loud drums, no long announcements, and no wide dancing space. The old man wanted it that way. He said it was not a party for noise, but a gathering for thanks. Only a few villagers were invited, and each of them received the message in a simple way. "Come in the evening," the messenger said. "Food will be shared." That was enough. As the sun began to go down, people started arriving at the old man's compound. They came slowly, greeting one another with soft smiles. Some carried stools, some carried bowls. Everyone came with peace in their hearts. The smell of food soon filled the air. Pots were placed on low tables. Drinks were poured. Laughter returned, gentle and careful, as if people were learning how to be happy again. For the first time in many days, villagers ate without fear. But not everyone felt at ease. From a distance, Gaius smelled the food. He was sitting behind his house when the scent reached him. His head lifted at once, his nose flared. His stomach responded before his mind did. He stood up slowly, trying to tell himself that he was not invited. "They did not call me," he said. "But food is food." He followed the smell without greeting anyone along the way. At the old man's compound, Gaius stood at the gate and watched. He saw plates being filled. He saw people eating calmly. He saw smiles that had not been shown for a long time. No one had called his name. No one waved at him. Still, he walked in. The moment Gaius entered, the mood shifted. Conversations dropped. Hands slowed. Some people looked away, others stared at their plates. The old man, however, did not react. He continued serving food as if nothing had changed. Gaius sat down quickly and reached for a plate. The food tasted good, better than usual. He ate fast, his eyes moving from one pot to another. Then he noticed something strange. In a corner of the compound, a small table stood apart. On it was a covered plate. The cover was clean and tight. Even from a distance, the food beneath it looked special. It did not steam like the others, but it seemed to glow softly in the fading light. Gaius felt a pull in his chest. He looked back at his plate. The food there suddenly felt ordinary. Before anyone could speak, the old man stood up. "My friends," he said calmly, "eat and be satisfied. But do not touch what is on that table. It is not for now. It is for someone special." Everyone nodded. No one asked questions. Everyone returned to eating, except Gaius. His eyes never left the covered plate. His mouth continued chewing, but his mind was elsewhere. He felt uneasy. His heart beat faster. His hands shook slightly. "What makes that food special?" he whispered to himself. He shifted on his seat. He wiped his mouth. He told himself to ignore it. But the covered plate remained, and the longer Gaius watched it, the harder it became to stay where he was. The gathering continued, but Gaius could not enjoy it. People ate and laughed softly. Bowls were refilled. Cups were passed around. The night air was calm, and the old man moved from one guest to another, making sure everyone was comfortable. But Gaius sat stiffly on his stool. His plate was still half full, yet his eyes were fixed on the covered plate in the corner. No matter how much he chewed, his mouth felt dry. No matter how much he swallowed, his stomach felt empty. The covered plate did not steam like the others. It did not smell loudly. Still, it pulled Gaius more strongly than any food ever had. He shifted closer without thinking. Someone beside him noticed. "Gaius, eat what you have," the man said gently. Gaius nodded, but his eyes did not move. The old man noticed him too. He paused for a moment, then continued walking, his face calm. Why cover food at a party, Gaius thought. Why warn people away from it? The questions crowded his mind. His heart beat faster. He felt heat rise inside him. His fingers tapped the edge of his plate. He told himself to look away. He tried. He looked at the people. He looked at the fire. He even looked up at the sky. But each time his eyes returned to the covered plate. The old man's words echoed in his head. "For someone special," Gaius laughed quietly to himself. "Who could be more special than me when it comes to food?" he whispered. Slowly he stood up. No one noticed at first. He took one step, then another, pretending to stretch his legs. His heart beat loudly in his ears. When he reached the table, he stopped. The plate was close now. Very close. He could almost taste it. Gaius remembered the warning. He remembered the eyes of the villagers. He remembered how they avoided him. For a brief moment, doubt entered his heart. What if this is not for me, he thought. But hunger pushed the thought away. Just a little taste, he said softly. No one will notice. His hand reached out. The cover felt cool and smooth under his fingers. He lifted it slightly, just enough to see. The food beneath looked beautiful. Rich, perfect. His mouth filled with water at once. Without thinking further, Gaius lifted the cover fully and picked a small piece. Only one bite. That was all he planned. The taste exploded in his mouth. It was sweeter than any food he had ever eaten. His eyes widened. His breath caught. He swallowed quickly, then reached again. "This is the best food in the world," he whispered. He took another bite, then another. He did not hear the silence behind him. He did not notice the old man had stopped moving. He did not see the villagers staring. All he knew was the taste. And as Gaius ate, something strange began to happen within him, though he did not yet understand what it meant. Gaius did not notice the silence at first. All he knew was the taste in his mouth. It was rich, warm, and deep, like nothing he had ever eaten before. The food melted on his tongue and filled his body with a strange comfort. His eyes closed for a moment as he chewed. "This is it," he whispered. "This is the best." He took another bite, then another. He meant to stop, truly he did, but when he tried to pull his hand away, it moved back on its own. His fingers picked the food again, faster this time. His mouth opened without waiting for his mind. Something was wrong. Gaius swallowed hard and tried to step back from the table. His feet did not move. His legs felt heavy, like they were planted in the ground. He laughed nervously and reached for his stomach. "Enough," he said to himself. "You've had enough." But his hand lifted again. The food tasted even better than before. Around him, the villagers stared. Some whispered. Some stood up slowly. No one laughed now. The fire crackled softly, the only sound breaking the quiet. "Gaius!" someone called. He did not answer. He took another bite, and another. His chewing became fast and loud. His breathing grew uneven. Sweat formed on his forehead. "I should stop," he said, his voice shaking. "I should stop." He could not. The plate did not empty. Instead, as Gaius ate, the food seemed to grow. Each time he reached, there was more. His eyes widened with fear. He tried to throw the food away, but his hand refused. Panic rose in his chest. "I can't stop," he said louder. "I can't stop eating." Some people laughed nervously, thinking he was joking. "That is Gaius for you," one man said. "He never stops eating." But Gaius was no longer smiling. Tears filled his eyes as he chewed and swallowed. His stomach stretched, growing round and tight. His clothes pulled against his body. He groaned softly and tried to bend forward, but his body felt stiff. "Please," he cried. "Something is wrong." Still, his mouth kept moving. The old man stood quietly at a distance, his face unreadable. He did not move closer. He did not speak. He only watched. Gaius looked around desperately. He tried to speak again, but his mouth was full. Food fell from his lips as he chewed faster, as if pushed by a force stronger than hunger. "I did not mean it," he cried. "I only wanted a taste." His voice broke. The villagers began to feel uneasy. Some stepped back. Others held their breath. The firelight danced over Gaius's face, now wet with sweat and tears. Still he ate. And as his stomach grew larger and heavier, Gaius realized with growing fear that this was no longer about food, and whatever had begun was far beyond his control. By now, everyone knew something was wrong. Gaius stood at the table, chewing without rest, his hands moving again and again. The sound of his eating filled the compound. It was no longer the sound of enjoyment. It was the sound of struggle. He tried to stop chewing. His jaw would not obey him. He tried to close his mouth. It opened again. His hands reached for the food as if pulled by strings he could not see. "Help me!" he cried, his voice shaking. "I can't stop." Some people laughed weakly, unsure what to do. "Gaius is pretending," someone said. "He always eats like this." But the laughter faded quickly. The plate did not empty. Each time Gaius swallowed, more food appeared. It piled up higher than before. The food that fell from his mouth returned to the plate. The sight made people step back in fear. Gaius's stomach swelled. It pushed against his clothes. His belt snapped. His breathing became heavy and slow. Sweat poured down his face, soaking his shirt. "I'm full," he cried. "I'm too full." Still he ate. His legs trembled. He leaned on the table for support, but even then his body shook. Tears rolled down his cheeks and dropped onto the food. His voice became weak. "Please," he begged. "Somebody stop this." People whispered among themselves. Fear spread through the gathering like cold air. No one moved closer. No one touched the plate. The old man remained silent. Gaius's face changed. His cheeks grew round. His neck thickened. His stomach hung heavy and hard. He looked nothing like the man who had walked in earlier that evening. "I will change," Gaius cried suddenly. "I will stop eating other people's food. His words came out between bites. "I will not beg children again," he sobbed. "I will not steal." Still his mouth did not stop. The villagers no longer laughed. Some covered their mouths in shock. Others turned away, unable to watch. A few began to cry, feeling pity for the man who had brought this upon himself. "Enough," someone whispered. "This is too much." Gaius tried to fall to his knees, but his body was too heavy. He fell forward instead, knocking the table slightly. The plate shook, but did not fall. The food stayed in place, waiting. Gaius looked up with wide, terrified eyes. His gaze met the old man's. "Please," he cried. "I am sorry." The old man took one slow step forward. The fire crackled loudly, breaking the silence. All eyes turned toward the old man as he raised his walking stick slightly, his face calm and firm. And for the first time since the eating began, Gaius felt a change, but he did not know what it meant. Gaius could no longer stand properly. His legs shook under the weight of his body. His feet slid slightly on the ground as he struggled to remain upright. The food kept entering his mouth, even though his throat hurt and his breathing was slow and painful. He was too full. His stomach had grown so large that it pulled him forward. His back bent under the weight. His arms were heavy, yet they still moved, lifting food again and again. His eyes were red from crying. His face was swollen with fear. "I'm dying," Gaius cried. "I'm dying." Some villagers rushed forward, forgetting their fear. "Stop him!" one woman shouted. "Take the food away!" A man tried to grab the plate, but the moment his hand touched it, he pulled back sharply as if burned. "I can't," he said. "It's too hot." Another person tried to knock the table over. It did not move. It was as if the ground held it in place. Gaius's chewing slowed, but it did not stop. Each swallow seemed harder than the last. His breathing came in short, painful gasps. "I can't breathe," he cried softly. Pity filled the compound. The same people who once hid their food from Gaius now looked at him with tears in their eyes. They remembered his laughter, his loud voice, his endless hunger. Now he looked small, even though his body was large. "Please," Gaius whispered. "I did not know it would be like this." He tried to lift his hand to wipe his tears, but it dropped back to the table. His fingers were swollen. His wrists ached. His whole body felt trapped. The villagers turned to the old man. "Please," they begged. "Have mercy on him." "He has learned," another said. "He is suffering." Gaius lifted his eyes with great effort. His voice was weak. "I promise," he said slowly. "I will change." The old man studied him carefully. His face showed no anger. His eyes were deep and serious. "You loved food more than people," the old man said quietly. "You used your mouth to hurt others." Gaius nodded, tears rolling freely. "Yes," he whispered. "I was wrong." The old man raised his walking stick slightly. The fire grew brighter for a moment, then settled. The villagers held their breath. "Do you swear?" the old man asked. "I swear," Gaius cried, "before everyone." The old man paused. The food on the plate stopped moving for the first time. Gaius's hand trembled in the air. Then the old man lowered his stick. A sudden stillness filled the place. Gaius gasped deeply, his mouth closing at last, but his body was still far too large and no one knew what would happen next. Silence spread across the compound like a heavy cloth. Gaius stood still, breathing hard. His mouth was finally closed. For the first time since touching the food, his hands no longer moved on their own. His chest rose and fell as he struggled to catch his breath. But his body was still large. Too large. His stomach hung forward, round and tight. His clothes were stretched and torn. He looked down at himself and began to cry again, not from fear this time, but from shame. "I meant every word," Gaius said weakly. "I swear it." The old man stepped closer. The firelight showed his calm face clearly. He did not rush. He did not shout. He looked at Gaius as a teacher looks at a child who has finally understood a hard lesson. "You used food to forget kindness," the old man said. "You used your mouth to hurt people. You forgot that sharing must have limits." Gaius nodded slowly. "I see it now," he said. "I was blind." The villagers gathered closer. Some held each other's hands. Some wiped tears from their eyes. Fear had turned into pity. Anger had softened into hope. The old man raised his walking stick again, higher this time. "Gaius," he said, "this promise you have made is not for tonight alone. It is for every day you wake up and see food before you." "I understand," Gaius replied. "I will change." The old man touched the ground lightly with his stick. A soft sound filled the air, like wind passing through leaves. The covered plate cracked quietly and turned to dust. The table shook once and became still. Gaius cried out as his body began to change. Slowly his stomach shrank. His arms thinned. His legs steadied. The weight left him bit by bit, like water draining from a pot. His breathing eased. His clothes loosened and fell properly on his body again. Within moments, Gaius stood as he once was. Normal. He fell to his knees and pressed his forehead to the ground. "Thank you," he said. "Thank you for sparing me." The old man lowered his stick and stepped back. "Stand up," he said. "Your life is yours again." Gaius stood, his eyes filled with tears. He looked around at the villagers, people he had hurt, people he had embarrassed, people he had taken from. "I am sorry," he said, "to all of you." No one answered at first. Then Mama Caro stepped forward. "Go," she said softly, "and live differently." Gaius nodded. He did not speak again. He walked out of the compound quietly, without laughter, without boasting, without looking back at the food that once ruled him. The villagers watched him disappear into the night. The old man turned and walked toward his hut, his work done. And in the village that night, people slept peacefully, wondering if hunger had truly released Gaius, or if the lesson would follow him wherever food was found.